Wrestling fans, this April in Jacksonville, Florida, the Spartan Combat Nationals are returning. Wrestle a different style each day, April 8th through the 10th, 2022, at the Spartan Combat Nationals. Register now at SpartanCombat.com. Now let's get to the show.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestle, because if you wrestle, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. This is your host, Ryan Warner. As always, we're proudly presented by Spartan Combat. Go to SpartanCombat.com to shop Kyle Dake merchandise. Our guest today is Joe Kania. Joe has helped this podcast tremendously over the past several months, and he is the founder and technically the CEO of Fantasy Fight League. Fantasy Fight League is, just as it sounds, it's a fantasy app, but for the combat sports world. FantasyFightLeague.com if you want to sign up. And it's all about fun. Joe's tagline is sports should be fun, and that's why he started Fantasy Fight League. Wanted to get Joe on to share his story, and I hope you enjoy it on this wonderful Wednesday, November 24th, Thanksgiving Eve, if you will, folks. Fan of the Week goes to our friend Richard, a.k.a. Kelsey. That's Shot I Merrick on Instagram. Thank you so much for the support, Richard. We appreciate it. I'm looking at his Instagram now. He's in 5th grade, class of 2029, folks. And that's it. Let's give it up for the great Joe Kania. Well, awesome, man. Let's talk some wrestling, Joe Kania.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you having me on, man.
It's an honor, man. We are friends. We go way back and have really, continued to work together more over the past couple months. Fantasy Fight League is your baby. It's what you've been growing and nurturing. How did this idea come about?
So I've been involved in wrestling since I was a little kid, right? And I've been involved in wrestling media in particular for about 10 years, right? I started when I was 19. I started a website called Garden State Wrestling. And the objective there was kind of 2010, 2011 to broadcast matches, right? This is right when Flow was starting to stream stuff. So I've always been into wrestling and just cool ways to engage the audience with wrestling, right? Kind of something different, Garden State Wrestling. That was when people were doing live tweets, and I was like, shoot, man, people want to watch the match live. So I've been involved in wrestling for a long time, and there's really nowhere to gamble on wrestling. There kind of is, but so for me, I was never a big fantasy football guy. I worked in the NFL for a while. I played football forever, but for me, I could never stick with it for the entire season. Mm-hmm. Right? I get really into it for the draft, and then I'd be that dude who never changed his lineup, and there'd be guys on IR in my starting lineup, and I'd ruin it for everyone, So I kind of thought, it would be cool to have a fantasy wrestling, but kind of change it in a way for something like someone like myself, right? I don't want to WrestleStat does a really cool job with a traditional fantasy pick a team. They go throughout the season. So I said, man, something for for me, I want to be able to turn a wrestling match on that I don't know anyone. I know a lot of people. I'm from New Jersey. I know a lot of Jersey guys. I want to be able to turn a wrestling match on that I don't have any type of built-in fandom to and have a reason to root for someone.
Mm-hmm.
So at its core, that's kind of what Fantasy Fight League, make wrestling interesting, right? Bring in new fans, make it engaging, give people a reason to care about a match they wouldn't really care about.
So how does it work? Like once you get into the app itself, what's like the step one?
Yeah. So it's $5 a month to play, and there are 10 prizes. So if you finish, the way it works is, so let's use a duel as a good example. You go and say it's Iowa, Penn State. You'll pick 5 starters, but it's not just like a traditional pick 'em, pick a 125, pick a 133, because then you could just pick the favorite in every match and it would be boring and everyone would have the same lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is you pick 5 starters, but we group together the heavy favorites. We group together the favorites. We group together the toss-ups. We group together the underdogs. We group together the heavy underdogs. So if it's a match where Kemmerer, Spencer Lee, Austin DeSanto, and Marinelli are all projected to score bonus, you can only pick one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the scoring kind of works like traditional duel scoring. So you'll have that duel, the person you pick. I flipped techs and pins just because I thought if I'm the king of the universe and I could change the way, I think teching someone's more impressive than pinning someone.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it follows kind of traditional duel scoring. So then whoever you pick, you get however many points they score. That applies to your username, and that moves you up and down the leaderboard. And if you finish top 10 on the leaderboard, you get some prizes. So
and it's a monthly basis. It resets.
Yeah. So yeah, we give them out every month, and I'm hoping as we, get more subscribers and it gets bigger, could give them out by event, give them out every week. Right now we give 10 prizes out every month. Rudis sponsors the first place prize, which is awesome. You can pick any pair of shoes from Rudis you want if you win. So I posted, it was funny. Everybody who played in October, who played every single game, won a prize. Like everyone, like if you're like actually paying attention and submitting your teams, you're getting your money's worth plus some. All right. I've got to pay. I've actually got them here. That's funny. I didn't even know that they were. It's hard for me to even want to give these away. I've got these throwback, cost me $400. These Nike Greco Supremes that were given out. So it's like, man, if you're and like I would think that most people who are playing would play just because it's fun anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The prizes are just kind of like an added incentive, so you don't feel like, shoot, what am I like? I'm actually spending money. What am I gonna, So someone this month is gonna get those $400 pair of shoes for $5.
But so like the good thing is every month it resets, so right? It's like if you've never played before and we're early in November, you start playing now, you could win those this month. You don't have to play like month after month to build them up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm hoping that maybe next month we'll see how things are going. But like right now, if you wanted to play, it's like, well, shoot, I already missed the first month. I already missed a week. It's going to be tough for me to win this month's leaderboard. So we do them every month now, but then when it restarts the next month, fresh slate, you play every game, you're probably going to win a prize.
Right. So. Dude, it's such an awesome idea because I'm with you. I'm not a fantasy person, and the idea of having a team that I have to manage each week, not appealing to me, but the weekly stuff, which I know you guys may do in the future, but even the monthly stuff is awesome because you could, really double down in a given month. Like November's big, and really you've only missed one weekend of wrestling if you haven't signed up yet, but December, January, February, those are huge months. And obviously you're doing events all year round, not just the college stuff. Even the Stalemates events were on there, but the monthly kind of scoreboard reset to me is appealing.
Yeah. And something that kind of looking at myself as a case study, we drop all of our games on Monday and we try to limit the games that we're running to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you've got all week to make your picks. It's not where I would get tripped up with fantasy football would be those Thursday night games.
Yeah.
You got to set them on Wednesday and you're like paying attention to it all week. We post the games on Monday and that's it. Like what you see on Monday, those are the games for that week. We're not adding anything in the middle of the week. You're not going to be surprised. So it really gives you, 3, 4, almost 5 days to be able to, set your teams. And we try to do a good job, through social and email, communicating, letting people know that new games are up. And we've got maybe, I don't know, 85, 90% of our subscriber base is engaged in playing every month. So love to see that.
And how do you pick which games or meets you're going to do?
It's kind of qualitative. So right now I have a, buddy of mine who works with me on this, and the way that we're coming up with the games right now is kind of fan bases, right? Like I said, we need to make sure that we're covering Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State, Rutgers, Oklahoma State at a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure that we have big tournaments, right? Like for me, I'm in charge. I'm approving the schedules. We didn't have U23s on there, and I wish we had. We didn't have, Michigan State Open. I wish we had. We had some Lehigh duels. We had some Morgan State. We had some good events. But so, what events do we have? Kind of varies. And shoot, like I'm really responsive on social. If someone tweeted and said, we need more of this, we need more of that, that's what we're here for. It's not for me, it's for the fans.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool thing, because you mentioned the Michigan State Open. That was a big one this weekend. And I mean, this the fact that it's a small shop that you can, fans can influence and change things is cool to me.
Yeah, right. Especially prizes too. Like I have no problem splurging on a really cool prize. If someone was in our DMs or responded to tweets, like, man, like this would be really cool. Sure. Right. Like I'm thinking next month we're going to start giving away plane tickets to NCAAs.
Nice.
They do like this NCAA fan experience thing that you could buy through the website. Like I think we're going to give some of those as prizes. And this month we're giving out tickets to a duel. So like any duel you want to go to, 2 tickets, if you finish 3rd place.
Heck yeah, dude, that's sick.
So it's like, shoot, if, like I want the people, and like we do memorabilia all the time. We, some Dan Gable stuff. We have a signed picture from Tom and Terry Brands that's going after someone that wins. I want people to, especially the early adopters, right? It's like, I want them to feel like they're getting a deal, right? It's a steal. It's like, shoot, I only paid $5. And the people who've been playing for the first couple months, there's this one guy named Mike who's been playing since the start. That guy must have $2,500 worth of stuff from me, because he was like the only one playing for a while. And it's like, all right, man.
Dude, it's so cool that you just started it because you wanted to. How long has it been going?
So I launched it not August, but last August.
Okay.
And shoot, man, so like I funded all of it myself. I don't have any investors. I built kind of all of the UX and UI myself. I've got enough back-end web experience. And for like the people that are kind of interested in technology, what's great about Fantasy Fight League relative to like other fantasy DraftKings, like a fantasy platform from an investor standpoint, is that we have such an easy back-end system for data entry that we don't need to license an API. So an API is the automated data that DraftKings, FanDuel use to populate their scores. That doesn't, and people say, oh, well, people ask me all the time, why can't DraftKings do what you're doing? Why can't FanDuel do what you're doing? How are they going to get the scores?
Mm-hmm.
Where are they going to get them from? There's no API you can license. Maybe they could find it somewhere. So one, there's no API. So for them, they would have to do it manually. The return on investment for someone like that relative to the time they get football is automated. You think they're going to go and start doing wrestling by hand? So like anytime someone says like, oh, I want like DraftKings do more wrestling, it's like, you got to understand that in order for it to be automated, and like WrestleStat is a great example. I don't know how they pull their stats. They have something like an API where they can start pulling it. But for me, like the approach was make it really easy for back-end data entry, and then find people that are just going to, punch the scores in.
Got it. So that's how you get the scores or the data in to actually populate the scores.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm a tech person, but I'm not enough of a tech person where I could replicate, any type of data automation like that.
Right. And then do you think eventually you guys, if it was your way, would move into sports gambling, like wrestling gambling?
So for me, like I like the idea of it being a game. Like I looked at it right now, it's web-based, but I looked at it almost like it's an app, right? Where you pay like $5 and you buy it through the app store and you're playing just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because gambling, one, there's lots of red tape and there are lots of restrictions. And I don't know, like I don't philosophically, like I'm not much of a gambler myself. And it's like, I don't know, I want it to be fun, right?
Yeah.
Like I want people to be having fun. I don't want it to be like a get rich quick scheme or, you know,
Someone
I guess
selling
it
the
could
mortgage.
be. Yeah, or like, I mean, you know, I have nothing against gambling. I know a lot of people like that. And that was kind of part of the initial idea when we started, was to be something like that. But, you know, I'd rather, I don't know, I like the idea of it being a game, right? And like, I like the idea too that, you know, I'm helping my partners, right? Like Rudis, everyone's competing for a pair of Rudis shoes every month. It's a good marketing deal for Rudis. It's a good deal for me. It's cool for, I've got people that are like grown adults that win all the time, that like donate the shoes to kids or like a club or whatever. So it's like, you know, if I'm looking for good faith and I'm looking for like long-term growth and I'm looking for maybe investors potentially one day, you know, I'd rather be like a partner deal in a game type of situation.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's cool that it is a, you know, a competition on a weekly basis. And the prizes, like you said, are legit. If someone wants to sign up, how do they do that?
So you go right to fantasyfightleague.com and there's an annoying splash page that's going to follow you all over the site until you put your email in or you sign up. And then it takes you right to a paywall. It's $5. It's easy. Put your credit card in and then you're in, right? And it's $5 a month. Cancel whenever you want, you know. So I think too, you know, good price point. Like for me, I was expecting maybe lower, maybe higher. It's like, I think, you know, $5 given what you can win. And for me, like, I'm not getting paid off of this. Like I'm still coming out of pocket to pay the employees to run the data and to be able to get the prizes and stuff.
Yeah.
So really, and I hope that, you know, I love kind of like rock and roll history and all these like really famous bands I like. You always hear them say, it's like, I just wanted there was an interview I was watching with Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield from Metallica.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, I don't want a mansion. They were like, I just want like an apartment with 2 bedrooms so I could put all my stuff there and, you know, I have somewhere to sleep. So for here, like, I'm not trying to get rich. I'm trying to, when we make more money and we get more subscribers, we're going to have cooler prizes. And we're going to have more games, you know?
That's sick. And anyone in wrestling can appreciate people going out on their own, trying to improve the wrestling experience more. And that's what you guys are doing. Folks, Fantasy Fight League is just a really cool idea that I want to get in front of you guys before the season gets really going. And Joe, you've been such a help to growing the podcast, you know, through social media, especially. So appreciate your time. And thank you so much for what you're doing with Fantasy Fight League. Any final words before we sign off for our listeners here, my man?
Yeah, I'd say be interactive, right? Hit me up. I'm easy to find. I'm responsive. Tweet me, DM me, DM Fantasy Fight League. It's for everyone else. You know, it's not for me. I'm not trying to become a millionaire. I'm trying to make something cool for wrestling and to make wrestling cool. So also shout out to everyone that's already played. You know,
definitely.
I appreciate everyone that some of these early adopters put their credit card into something that they don't really know and they might not really trust. You know, I really appreciate those people. And, you know, you don't get to thousands of subscribers without those first couple people that take a leap of faith. So I appreciate them.
That is cool, man. When you see it building organically like that.
Yeah. It's like, shoot, playing against each other. Like, I love when people like, tweeting at me about their scores or like, you know, whatever it is. It's like, that's what, you know, and there's also a function where you can make a group and you can sort the leaderboard just by like you and your friends. So something
that's
cool.
that
I think could be cool. Yeah. And, you know, I'm working on some other features that hopefully will be here soon, but then it's like you play against your friends and that gets applied to the leaderboard too. So you could sort the leaderboard by you and your friends, and you guys want to play for money, you could make your own prizes, right? We're just kind of putting the data infrastructure together and putting the games together. So, and then you play against your friends. If you're playing every week, that'll move you up the leaderboard for everyone and maybe you win something cool. So
That's a good point about the just having, you guys are kind of like the back end that tabulates it for groups or friends that are playing. Like I know a bunch of people that go to like the Big Tens every year, and you could do a fantasy fight league for the Big Tens, and you could calculate it right there on your website for them. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's like you go and you don't need to be playing against everybody else. You could play against, so that we're working on some UX to try to make that a little more user friendly and get people in and start creating groups. But yeah, it's cool, man. It's exciting. Shoot, give me 5 years. I'm trying to have enough energy to be able to get going for 5 years and really get moving. And I hope ultimately to be able to. This is Fantasy Fight League. The objective originally was MMA, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling, because jiu-jitsu kind of faces a similar type of issues with fantasy sports as wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know those communities, right? Like I ran marketing for Flow Grappling for a little bit, and I was learning on the fly. I don't really know those communities, right? So let's build up wrestling and, get enough subscribers where we can go find someone who's an expert. And that's where I see it ultimately. I'm not a WWE fan by any means, but I think WWE would be another good one too. And kind of bulk together all those sports where, shoot, and then you pay. What's great too is then it's only $5. You don't have to pay more to play other sports. Right. So then it's like, okay, this was such a thing. I'm rambling at this point, but this was such a thing for me when I was in charge of marketing for both Flow Wrestling and Flow Grappling at the same time. Was jiu-jitsu wasn't what the people wanted, it was what the people needed, right? And marketing, you got to give them a little bit of both. If you always just give the people what they want, then you turn into like an aimless clout page. Sometimes it's what the people need. I knew nothing about jiu-jitsu, but I was like, man, this is kind of cool, right? Why would they care? So in the Fantasy Fight League angle, it's like, for wrestling fans that don't know anything about jiu-jitsu, it's like, okay, well, you're paying $5. Okay, well, you win like whatever, a Visa gift card or something. Yeah. Or, play the jiu-jitsu games too. It's included in your thing. Play the MMA games. Play, WWE games.
Right.
So
all under the same banner too.
Yeah, and you just scroll around and it's like you drop games on Monday, and then it's like the cool experience is like, oh shoot, this event is on tonight. Oh, who's on my team? Oh, okay. Turn it off for 5 minutes. Watch the guy you have. Right. And like that's just what we're looking for.
Well, we're excited to see it grow and excited for all the help so far, man. And thanks again for coming on, Joe. We really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to this episode of Wrestling Changed My Life. To see video clips from this interview, please go to Instagram at Wrestling Changed My Life. This episode was proudly presented by Spartan Combat. The Spartan Combat Nationals are returning to Jacksonville, Florida, April 8th through the 10th, 2022. Register now at SpartanCombat.com.